What is up, everybody? Dub Lewis, Fantasy Sports Insight. We are back. WNBA DFS tonight. We're now starting the second half of the season. It's crazy how fast time flies, but the short season, only 3 or 4 weeks, for each half of it. And so, all the teams have played half the games will play this regular season. And so, we're looking forward to a great second half of the season. I think a lot of myself and Gators big hits in the past have been in that back half of the season when there's more injuries, more kind of less predictable, like rotations, late news, things like that kind of become more prevalent. We've seen that in past years, and so I would imagine it kind of remains the case again this season. So I think some things to focus on as we kind of go into the back half of the season are one, focusing on games that stay close. I think we saw kind of towards the last couple of slates there's been a lot of blowouts and a lot of games that just get out of hand very quickly, and with the season being so slammed together, obviously coaches are resting their players in blowouts and things like that, and so there's just no reason to try to chase blowouts, in my opinion. And so I think we really want to focus on these games that we project to stay close, and also look at the Vegas lines, things like that, if they think they're staying close, and usually a pretty good indicator. And so sticking to the games that stay super close, I think will be a really good strategy, and kind of stacking them up, I think will make plenty of sense from a DFS perspective. I think also focusing on teams that have fewer players is also a really good strategy. Like we'll get into it, but for tonight, the Fever only have 9 available players. I think that's something we really want to focus on, because these teams that have really deep bench 11 or 12 players have no problem rolling them out in blowouts and really in any kind of situation. It's just kind of been the story of this year with them playing games every other night. It makes total sense that the coach would want to rest their players. So really want to focus on those teams that don't have the options to do that, and as well as those games that stay close. And as always, I'm really looking forward to this second half of the season. I think it'll definitely be better than the first half, and looking forward to some big wins. So without further ado, let's jump into it tonight. I do like the slate a decent amount tonight. There's no value is kind of hard to come by, I think, tonight. That'll be kind of a theme that I'll kind of go through, but I think there's definitely plenty of ways to build, so I'm excited about that. So let us jump into that. So 7, 9, and 10 of the 3 games tonight, so kind of an overall pretty late some later games. And so kind of staying up into tomorrow, I guess, to figure out how we end up with some of those late games. But the first game, Indiana, Connecticut, I think this is definitely, and I think before I kind of get into all 3 games, breaking them all down, I think we want to focus on this Indiana, Connecticut game, focus on this Las Vegas, Chicago game. And then me personally, New York, Seattle, Vegas has as a 17-point spread, which is, maybe the biggest spread that I think I've ever seen in the WNBA. So again, I would imagine it blows out. Vegas is saying it blows out, and so that's something that we'll get into. But I really do think that these 2 early games, are almost 10 points higher totals, and the spreads are 2 and 4. So I think definitely the games that we want to target are these 2. So we'll kind of get into who I'm looking at in these games. So for Indiana, Connecticut, an overview of all the guards in this game. Again, I like DeWanna Bonner. I think it's a good spot for her in a good matchup. The issue is just, this is kind of a theme we've always talked about in DFS, is you usually want to pay for the forwards, and there's usually better mid-range guards, and that's kind of the case again tonight. You playing DeWanna Bonner, you're probably sacrificing someone like Asia Wilson, or if you are playing her with Asia Wilson, and you're having to find some kind of value somewhere, you're having to punt, and so it probably makes for a less optimal build. Like I don't see myself playing Bonner in my optimal build, but I think she's definitely a fine tournament play, because this is a good spot for her for sure. And I like this game quite a bit. Jasmine Thomas, FanDuel, essentially, she was priced down for so long that they decided to jack her price way up, and it's just not a price I'm going to pay for. I'm not paying 6.6 for Jasmine Thomas, so that's just not going to happen on FanDuel. I think much better plays for $1,000 cheaper. As far as the rest of the guards go, I'm no interest really in Bria Holmes. Breon January is kind of playing more minutes now, which is obviously eating into Kayla Charles, who still continues to be kind of popular just because I think she's starting. But, her minutes are just not great anymore with Breon January back. And so not really chasing any of the other Connecticut guards. Really like the Fever guards. And that's kind of been a theme all season. I really like the Fever guards, and especially right now with, Vivian's out for the season. They have 9 healthy bodies. They have Kennedy Burke and Kathleen Doyle. Kathleen Doyle, the rookie, barely plays much at all except for if Almon gets in foul trouble. Are really the only 2 that they have backing up all 3 of Kelsey Mitchell, Almon, and Tiffany. So, when games stay close, they're all going to play 30-plus minutes. And so I really like that from a DFS point of view, just because obviously we can kind of hone in on those minutes. And this is a good spot against the Sun. So I really do like those three quite a bit. And again, it's really hard to kind of project. There's usually one who has a really good game, one has a solid game, and one flops a little bit. So it's really hard to kind of target where that's going to be. If I had to guess, I think I'd probably prefer Kelsey tonight, because I think Tiffany has to deal with Bonner. And I think Alamon will get Jasmine Thomas defense. So I probably prefer Kelsey the most. Obviously, she is the most expensive. I think if I had the salary, I'd get up to her. But then probably Tiffany after that, then Alamon would probably be my order. But again, all three are really solid plays. I think all three will probably be in that 20, 35, 40% range, somewhere like in there. They're always kind of usually split a lot of ownership. And so I think kind of getting one of those guards right tonight could be, one of the keys to the slate for sure. Kennedy Burke, if you need the punt, 3.6. She's going to play 15, 20 minutes, but hasn't really done much. She's a lot better last year, and so I'm not going there. As far as the forwards go in this game, Alyssa Thomas, 7.3 is still a really nice price comparatively. I mean, you're getting a discount on her, almost $1,000 discount compared to Stewart. Still, though, the Storm did struggle, obviously, last game. Alyssa and Bonner both had rough games against Seattle, as that was kind of expected. I thought Alyssa would be better than that, but, only played 22 minutes, so they got blown out, so didn't get to do much. Obviously, a good bounce-back spot for her here. I think the issue would be, again, it's kind of with the whole Bonner thing. If you decide to play, for me, we're going to preview, and Asia Wilson, I just don't know how you don't play her in an optimal build tonight. Playing Alyssa Thomas, you can definitely do that player with Asia. You're just having to find the value elsewhere. So I think she's for sure in play. We can look at builds with her, but I think she's making it a little bit tougher. Tara McCowan at 6.6 is just impossible to play, I think, right now with her minutes. Again, this is someone that if she gets 30 minutes, she'll break the slate. I think you always have to have a tournament line with her, following that logic. The issue is she has not played more than 23 minutes in 4 straight games. And this is just kind of this is a big screw you shout out to that coach, because just a free Tara McCowan. I'm on that bandwagon, so I don't understand, what's happening there. And it's funny, last year when she played big minutes and they put her in the starting lineup, if you were starting winning games. So, at some point, maybe they just start giving her bigger minutes and see if they start winning more games. I don't know, but free Tara McCowan, there's my plug. But Candace Dupree, kind of finally the last couple of games, 21, 28, 28 minutes, which she's not playing the 35 minutes that she was playing early on in the season. And you'll kind of see this with Candace Dupree. Always a pretty safe cash play until she's not, until she just doesn't start. She just kind of wears down as the season goes on, and she doesn't have a ton of upside anyway. And so don't really like Candace Dupree much tonight. However, I do like the game. So, and with mid-range forward not being necessarily great, I think she's fine as kind of a last person in, but I'm not building around Candace Dupree. Nor McCowan. Brianna Jones, 5.8, like quite a bit. I liked her a lot last game, and she did 26 and 22 minutes. If she plays 30 minutes, if that game stays close, she's probably hitting 35. So that was right. And I think Brianna Jones, I was kind of worried for a little bit about Plaisance and Montpellier kind of eating into her. Brianna Jones, she's honestly kind of there to stay. If the game stays close, she's going to play probably 27 to 30 minutes. So I like that quite a bit at 5.8. They'll need her against Tara McCowan because they have another body that can match up with that size. So I expect she has to go minute for minute with McCowan at least. So I like Brianna Jones quite a bit. Natalie Achanwa, 24 minutes last game. So that's interesting to me, but still did nothing with that. And again, the Fever front court with her, Dupree, McCowan, Lauren Cox, it's all kind of just a crap show. So Navunga is supposed to be out, I've already seen. So I think Lauren Cox 3.0. If you probably want to play 2 studs, I think that might be your way to do it. It's just, you play Lauren Cox punt. Hope she gets you 12, 15 fantasy points in 12, 15 minutes, and then you roll with that. So I think that's kind of the strategy for doing that. The double stud build would probably be through Lauren Cox, I would think. And that's kind of that game. On FanDuel, over on DraftKings, as far as the pricing goes over here, you get a nice discount, Tiffany, compared to Kelsey and Alamon. So I probably prefer the discount there. I think she's a good bet for probably 25 for probably around almost 4x. So I like that quite a bit, that price. I don't know. If around January were to maybe get a spot start, I think she could be interesting at 5.2, but I don't expect she starts. I think they have Charles out there still. And then, a Bonner, again, always in play. Kelsey Mitchell and Alamon are fine over here. I think you could definitely end with them because I think it's more of a balanced build on DK today. So if Kelsey Mitchell and Alamon are fine, I probably prefer Tiffany Mitchell. Bonner is, I think, solid at 10.6, but again, it just kind of, who are you playing? What are you playing her over instead? I think she's more tournament oriented the way builds go. And then Jasmine Thomas 8.0, I like quite a bit. Obviously, she's almost $1,000 more expensive than the Mitchells over on FanDuel, and you get a discount, for Jasmine over here. So 8.0, I really do like Jasmine Thomas's price quite a bit. Forwards, Alyssa Thomas, still 10.8. So there's no, like, you're not getting a huge discount on her. But she's fine. I think more tournament oriented again. Because I think Asia Wilson's the top stud, but I think Alyssa Thomas is fine. McCowan, Dupree, and Jones all in that high 7, low 8 range. I think are playable. But I probably would just prefer the minutes and this a little bit more safety with Brown and Jones, probably at 7.8. But I still think Dupree at 8.1 is interesting because even if she plays 30 minutes, you could easily get you 25 fantasy points, and you could roll that at 8.1. So I like that a decent amount. And then again, really not too much interest in anyone else down there. Lauren Cox's price is kind of hiked up a little bit, so you're not getting a great discount like you were originally with her. Moving into the second game, this is for sure, like, this is a game that both these teams get up for. But obviously, last year, Hamby hits the half-court shot to send Chicago home in the playoffs. And then, they had a really good battle in the first game this year. So, like, these teams get up for this matchup. So, at games where, these players get up for, like, also one thing, I didn't mention that Essence Carson is now with the Sun. And I was thinking about, she wouldn't play, today. But, like, I was thinking, like, she almost had, like, fly from Washington to Connecticut or something. Like, instead, she's probably hopping on the elevator, going up 2 floors, and suddenly she's with Connecticut. So, yeah, I think it's a little bit different. So she's probably with the team. I don't know if she plays or not today, but obviously that would eat into people. Not on that slate at all. So you're not playing her tonight, but she could obviously eat into a little bit of some of those bench guards. But I don't really expect her to play today, but I did want to mention that as something. So this game, again, we want to, I think, targeting player or games that, teams will actually get up for is big. And so this is one that should play close, 167 total, like 2-point spread. Expected to play close throughout. These teams always play each other really well. So really like this game from a fantasy point of view, just trying to get players from this game. Again, as far as the guards go, again, we always love Chicago games, but don't ever love playing a ton of Chicago. But I think on FanDuel for sure, Allie Quigley and Khalid Copper stand out to me as 2 very solid plays. I don't think you could play both, play one of them. You probably end up with one of them in a cash build, I think. Copper at 5.0, haven't played much of this season. Obviously, I think I've talked about her, played her on her flop games, but last game blew out. She would have played probably more than 30 minutes again and, hit 20 fantasy points if it doesn't. But her minutes have honestly been great. I keep waiting for Diamond Shields to really, like, find herself again and get back in the groove of things. But it's really just been Copper's kind of workload. And honestly, she's been playing well enough where she hasn't had to see that starting spot. And so I like Copper a good amount here at 5.0. Aces don't play liquid defense. They really don't. So I think that's a really good spot for Copper. Allie Quigley, 5.6. I think just really safe. Again, this game blew out. She would have played 25, 30 minutes. I expected to play close here. She's just a really safe, I think, 20, 30 fantasy points with upside for more. So I really like Allie Quigley a lot today in these up-tempo games where, especially the Chicago forwards, just struggle a little bit against Asia and Storage down low. It's, they're honestly, they body up those Sky forwards pretty well. So I would think things get funneled out to Quigley a good amount. So I like Quigley a lot. Sloot's always a GPP play, but at 6.7, I'm not pulling the trigger there because her upside has not been that great this year, but she's fine. Diamond, Gabby Williams, not really, to me, just, more secondary GPP dart, not feeling that. So that's the Chicago guards. As far as the Aces guards go, the only one I'm really interested in is, I think, Jackie Young. Caleb McBride, a couple games ago, obviously, she goes off against Minnesota, had 5 steals, and then, flops against Washington. So she's really tournament-oriented because, again, she has that 30, 35 fantasy point upside in her. It's just she has that 5 to 10 floor in her, and it's just ugly. So she's more for tournaments for me. Jackie Young, she keeps having good games. It's like a string of 4 or 5. String of 5 games, over 20 fantasy points. Her minutes haven't been great. Only playing 25 minutes, which I don't love. You probably get some better minutes safety elsewhere, but she's been playing really well. And this is a really good spot against Chicago. Just up-tempo game that she'll be able to get rebounds and kind of and run the floor with and make plays. So, I do like Jackie Young. And Bill Laimbeer, obviously, he's talked about her of late, kind of putting the ball more in her hands and trusting her more to run the offense, which she's their best point guard. I don't know why they continue to start Lindsay Allen and play a lot of Danielle Robinson. So at some point, Jackie Young's their best guard for sure. Just kind of tough off the bench, a 5.4 player off the bench. It's never sexy, but definitely like to play here quite a bit. Jackie Young, I think Copper, Young, Quigley, you probably end up with 1 or 2 in your optimal builds, and you can find one of them maybe in the core. I like them all a good amount here for sure. As far as the forwards go, I think Asia Wilson for sure is just the top play in the slate. And we'll get into Brandon Stewart in a little bit, and we talked about Alyssa and Bonner and stuff. But again, look, 35 is last game in 23 minutes against Washington. Again, minutes just cutting a blowout again. All the games that they've kept that have been close this year, like she smashed in. When she's playing big minutes, which I expect her to play 33, 35 minutes tonight, she's had great success. And this is she's had awesome success against this guy in the past. Obviously, that first game at 41 and 29 minutes when her minutes were still kind of a little bit cut back. So assuming she gets 33, 35 minutes here, there's no reason that she shouldn't be the top play. On On the slate tonight, just a really good spot for Dolson, Parker, Azari Stevens haven't really been able to control her in the past. And so assuming she gets Stevens to start on her, she should be able to bully her, especially in that first quarter and third quarter when she gets to start with Azari on her. And so I really like the spot a ton for Asia Wilson. I just think that's probably the optimal play for sure tonight. And I think there's merit to, going subtlest tonight, maybe on FanDuel, trying to really balance Bill, but I still think you probably want that Asia upside for sure in cash. I expect her to be very chalky because of it. Really like Derek Hamby at 6.0. This is someone who, again, I'm kind of waiting for that 35-40 point game. At 28 against this guy in the first game of the season. The issue is her minutes have not been over 30 at all this season. So she's playing more 25-30 minutes, which is probably why we haven't seen the crazy upside. But I still like her a lot. 6.0. I think a really safe play for 25-30 fantasy points with upside for more, obviously. So definitely like her quite a bit. I think Angel at 6.5 is for sure in play, and definitely I think there's ways if you fade Asia, maybe playing Angel and Hamby and a Bill could definitely be a strategy for tournaments. Again, her issue has just been obviously been the minutes has been the issue all season. If Angel were playing 30-35 minutes, she's probably 7.5 or 8. But the issue has been the minutes. But if you do remember, she crushed Chicago that first matchup this season. I think 38.6 fantasy points, 26 minutes, were 25 real. Just mowed them. The issue is if there's any sniff of just the game getting out of hand, or I don't know, if things are not right, she's just not going to play minutes, and the Lambier has no problem resting her. So she's just really risky, but again, has plenty of upside that we've seen, and honestly, the spot doesn't get a ton better than this one. So definitely, I think she's fine. Definitely in play. You could play her in cash. I wouldn't really have an issue with it, but you just have to know the risk when you play her. The Sky front court's a mess right now. Parker at 6.9 is a total pass. I just don't think she's playing more than 22, 23 minutes with Dolson back. So you obviously have Dolson, Stevens, Parker, Hebard started last game, played 10 minutes. Just kind of like what the hell, why not start Ruthie Hebard? I don't know what Wade was doing really. So all four of them are really tough for me at these prices because none of them are really values. Honestly, if Dolson were starting, which we're not going to know, I would not be. I would honestly play a good amount of her at 5.7. Minutes been up each game. Played 20 minutes last game. She could play 24, 25 minutes. I think she's a good bet for 25, 30 fantasy points. She's pretty close to a little bit over about a minute or a fantasy point per minute. So I think that would be an interesting play for sure if she was starting, but we won't know that necessarily. And that front court is kind of a mess, to be honest. With Stevens has played really poor of late, has not looked good. So I just don't really know what minutes look like there. Now they've Hebard, they're trying to get some minutes too. So it's just kind of tough. So I don't think any of the Sky front court players are optimal. I'd probably have the most interest in probably Dolson, but again, we're not going to know what her minutes look like and stuff, so that could be kind of risky. So that's that game on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings. Guard Sleuth's price is now at 9.4, a little more reasonable. So I think she's in play in tournaments. Copper and Quigley and Jackie Young will probably be my targets. I think all are fine for sure. In that below 8 range, I think y'all could easily hit 25, 30 fantasy points. I think all are totally fine. I'll probably kind of get more updates on who I'm looking at of that group later. Diamond Shields at 5.8 still is maybe play her in tournament line or two just because she does have really good upside, but then she could easily get 20 fantasy points last game. So there is still a body of work there. It's kind of tough right now to play her, but I think she's an interesting tournament play. As far as the forwards go, Asia Wilson 11.0, I think probably just the lock button of the slate, especially in cash. Again, always, you can fade in tournaments, but I think really good solid play in cash. Hamby at 7.5 really stands out to me on DraftKings. That seems like a major misprice. So I really like Hamby a lot on DraftKings. I have no problem playing her and Asia at all. I think obviously, I projected 20, 30 fantasy points, which is 4x, which is what you want on DraftKings. So 7.5 is super nice, I think. Dolson, she started, I think is fine. Angel, I think very totally in play, 8.9. Again, just you know the minutes. More of a tournament play for me. I prefer Hamby and Wilson in cash. And no one else really has caught my eye, really pricing wise for those forwards. So that's kind of that game. Then over on, we'll sum up this last game pretty quickly. So again, 17-point spread. It's the best team in the league versus by far the best team in the league. Let me mention that versus by far the worst team. It's not really that close, I don't think. And we'll talk about Brianna Stewart to start. Again, I said it in the chat, but Brianna Stewart by far is the best women's basketball player in the league right now. She is just if you watch her play, actually incredible. The issue is the minute, obviously she's incredible, but she hasn't had value in 4 of her last 5 games just because Oh, blowouts. I mean, 31 minutes, 24, 24, 26, and 4 blowouts in the last 5 games. And so, like, Seattle's just rocketing teams. And so they have so many other, like, Lloyd in Canada, Clark, Howard. They have so many bodies that, like, they can just blow teams out with different players. And so, like, they don't even necessarily need Stewart, even though she is the MVP, by far the league's most valuable player. But they just don't even need her sometimes. And so I really don't think there's a need to play her here tonight. I feel pretty confident. Again, I mean, I say that's hard. It's really hard to predict blowouts and stuff. But again, she hasn't had value for the last 5 games because of blowout. This is just like this game screams blowout more than any of the ones that have blown out. And so I don't know. I just don't see her playing more than 25, 26 minutes here. And could she hit 40? Oh yeah, like she definitely could. I mean, obviously that first game of the year hit 38 and 28 minutes. Like she'll probably need steals and blocks to get there, I would think, if she's going to hit value in limited minutes. But she very well could do that. I just think Aja Wilson's way safer. And a really good game. And so I think Brandon Stewart's okay. Like if you want to play her in cash, I have no problem with that. Like if you want to pair her and Wilson and play like Lauren Cox, I think that's totally fine. But I don't think he'll be playing Brandon Stewart over Aja Wilson, if that makes sense. So I think it's fine to pair her with Aja Wilson, but I kind of see myself going maybe more balanced route tonight on both sides. So yeah, Brandon Stewart, those are my thoughts on her. Alicia Clark is too expensive, I think, both sides, especially in a game that probably blow out. Natasha Howard, we have to obviously talk about her. I think it was long overdue, the breakout game. I mean, only played 22 minutes, so not much different. Obviously, it was her most minutes that she's played all season, but not much different than what she's been playing. Does 40 fantasy points. And honestly, like, this is fine because, like, I think at some point I knew, like, fading her all year was going to kind of bite me in the ass just because she has that upside. But she has just been awful this year. And so she finally flashed that crazy upside. 2 blocks, 3 steals. They actually just look great. They almost like they were featuring her. They were running a lot more pick and rolls with her. And she was just killing Connecticut, especially Brianna Jones, who just could not keep up with her at all. And I would imagine, it's kind of the same deal with Stokes again tonight. I think that she should be able to kill her in that pick and roll. So again, it's not really a sign. It's not really me thinking, oh gosh, Natasha Howard's like a stud now. But I think 4.7, they didn't move her price on FanDuel, especially. Like, it's kind of an impossible fade, I think. Even in the blowout, for me, it's much different. Stewart versus Howard to me is much different. Paying 8.0 for 25 minutes of Brianna Stewart is a lot different to me than paying 4.7 of 20 minutes of Natasha Howard. Like, it all comes down to pricing in minutes and what that looks like. So again, because I'm scared of the blowout, I have no issue playing Natasha Howard because she's 4.7 and could easily do 5 or 6x in 18 to 20 minutes. It's just kind of the way it is. So Natasha Howard, definitely a lock on FanDuel. There's just no way around it, I don't think. So expect her to be her and Wilson, maybe the most popular plays on the slate for sure. Again, not me saying Natasha Howard's back by any means, but I am saying, like, after she flashed that upside and after they look to actually feature her a lot more, this is a dream spot to get, a ton of blocks and steals and stuff. It's tough to pass on her. McGregor, you could play her over Howard as like a cheeky, like, I don't know, hope Howard gets in foul trouble, doesn't play at all, and you play McGregor and you take the money. That's fine. I think that's really tournament oriented. And really no one else I got much interest in, especially the Liberty forwards. Like, gosh, I think just pass on them. This is going to be just a crap show. I think in tournaments, if you want to like stack it up and play Stewart and Zowie and Howard and Clarion or something, that's fine in tournaments. But this game is just going to be out of hand. I think the Liberty just play everyone. So yeah, I'm not playing Joel Lloyd or Jordan Canada. Super could honestly hit value in 20 minutes at 5.2, but I'm just not going there. I don't think she could easily play 15 minutes in this game. Jasmine Jones is interesting because she's very blowout proof off the bench flow, but she's going to play probably 22, 23 minutes regardless. Kind of eats like in garbage time, honestly, in the fourth quarter. Like she just drives in, tries to get fouled, go to the foul line, rack up points. So I do like that from a fantasy point of view. So I think she's fine. But again, she's not like the 4,000, 4.5 guard that you were getting her a couple of weeks at. So a little more priced up now. So I don't love that. I think she's fine. Honestly, screw Kia Nurse. I really don't. Honestly, kind of unbelievable. She looked really good. Kind of was all over the place 2 games ago against Indiana. So like, okay, she's a little more in the groove. She's a little bit better now. Player last slate, and she goes over 9 from the field. Just like, what on earth? So I think if you want to like stack the game up, you play Stewart, Howard, Zowie. Nurse is probably someone I'd run it back with in a game stack, but I'm just not playing Kia Nurse here because she probably gets Clark on her, and who probably will just clamp her. And so I'm just not really seeing the need to do that. Sammy Wickham. If you think it probably will blow out. So, I mean, she could be fine in garbage time, but again, they have other people they can play minutes. So, I think she's for sure fine in tournaments, but I kind of see myself playing more of the guards in that 5,000 to 6,000 range. And so that's kind of my interest in this game, which is just not a lot of interest. So that's a short story. And then this game over on DraftKings. We'll hop in here. Yeah, as far as forwards go, I'm playing Wilson over Stewart. You could play them both, but I think you got to find the value somewhere. So I think I'm probably in cash just playing Wilson, fading Stewart. Howard 6.6. I think a solid play. You know, if she gets 20 minutes, gets you 20 fantasy points, you take that probably at 6.6. So I think that's for sure in play. Zybe and Clark and Prices don't love. Stokes is okay, but again, that game just scares the heck out of me. I think someone like Kylie Shook is interesting for value here. Her minutes went up the last couple of games. She's kind of putting around 12, 15 fantasy points. So I think, you know, if she were able to get, you know, that 20, 25 minute mark, she could hit 20 fantasy points. So I think Kylie Shook's for sure in play, especially, and I do think that because I imagine Stokes gets really killed in the pick and roll early on against Howard and Stewart. And so Shook's someone that Coach Hawkins has mentioned is really good. Like, it's their best pick and roll defender. So I think that's something to think about, maybe that she gets some extra minutes there. So I think she's totally fine. That's kind of the forwards go. Jewel Lloyd and Clarendon, Canada. I'm not paying those prices really. Sue Bird and Kia Nurse below 7. Like, I mean, they catch my eye a little bit, but not something that I absolutely love. And then I think maybe someone else I'd look at would be, you know, the Jasmine Jones or Sammy Whitcomb, in the hopes that game blows out or something, and maybe you just get some extra minutes from them, and maybe, you know, they scrape away their way to 20, 25 fantasy points and get there. So don't necessarily love any of this game, honestly, on DraftKings. I think Howard's fine, but don't love it. And then I think the rest of them are kind of more GPP terminal-oriented plays. And so, again, me saying this, that they're kind of talking about this last game and me thinking of blowout and stuff, doesn't mean you don't necessarily have to, doesn't totally fade that game and stuff. I think there's definitely ways to do it, like in tournaments, how to play certain scenarios and stuff. You just have to be cognizant of it. And something I really want to focus on is just playing, like, you know, the optimal plays at this point in the season. So I want to focus on the game to stay close and, you know, play with teams that don't have the option to just roll out their bench whenever they want. So those are kind of my thoughts on today's slate. Obviously, I'll have some analysis and cores and chat later. Hopefully, you know, cores around 6 or 6:30. And let's look forward to making some money tonight. All right, I'll talk to you later.